Hello everyone. Good evening and welcome. My name is Megha Iyer, Associate Editor of B2B Purchase magazine, and we welcome you to an interactive session on procurement trends in PEB. We have my colleague Ms. Akanksha here to introduce the panelists and to moderate the session. So let's sit back and enjoy the special interactive session. I welcome Ms. Akanksha.
Thank you, Megha. The construction industry in value terms is expected to record a compound annual growth rate of 15.7% to reach $738.5 million by 2022. In light of the ongoing pandemic and to realize the current opportunities, it is crucial for companies to adopt off-site manufacturing-centric construction practices where PEB is catching up very fast. Innovative technologies have always been the backbone of the development of any industry. Digital technologies have significantly transformed PEBs from simple box structure to the complex and aesthetically appealing design structures as we see today. On this note, B2B Purchase has organized this interactive session on procurement and technology trends in PEB, where the leading experts, technology providers, design engineers, and steel producers will discuss the potential of steel buildings, structural roofs, design trends, and trending technology that is expected to grow in manifolds in the coming years. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and privilege for me to introduce you our today's distinguished speakers, Mr. Ramchandran, Deputy General Manager, Everest Steel, and Mr. Nikhil Botra, Director of EPAC Group.
Mr. Ramchandran, I would like to start with you. You detailed all the procurement aspects of PB projects. So I want to understand this, with technology taking over, how do you look at its accessibility to the contractors for project management, especially within the given budget?
See, one of the points which in fact Nikhil agreed with me that on the fast execution of these projects, right? We need a technology-driven, robust project management setup, which is which is controllable. Which is within our control, right? So this directly gets transferred to more efficient to increase my efficiency in my site construction. Say for example, if we are building a warehouse, it is very extremely crucial that the supply of the material happening to the site happens exactly to the point at which the erection does not stop and any construction does not stop at any point of time. At the same time, I don't hold any inventory in me. So this is one area which is is one where almost I think most of the companies are struggling to meet what they aspire for, and this is one area where we have a lot of scope for improvement. This is one area where technology-driven project management will greatly help us, and which get directly transferred in reducing the man hours in the construction site, either with an erector or a contractor whom we employ. And this ultimately helps us in reducing the total project life cycle, and I will be and the last of cost saving is there in this aspect.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramachandran, for addressing that. Mr. Nikhil, you already had shed some light on that. Even I want to understand from you also that how do you look at it? How is this accessibility to contractors? How is it helping them in project management? Technology specifically.
So, contractors, we have seen a paradigm shift in the way we used to manage project earlier and the way we are managing project right now. In terms of the technology, we have seen a lot of different, planning softwares and planning areas where, in terms of the start from the design. So we have, tried one software where if we put in the building design in it, it will show you the sequence of erection. It will show you how to erect the building, which component will be required in which date, and how long will it take, what resources you need, what manpower you need. Everything could be designed by the software. So these are the type of innovations and the technology which are being used to support the contractors at site. Because the challenge currently is not in manufacturing in this, not in design, because that is all controlled in sitting in a controlled environment. The only challenge is to run the site effectively, to execute the project in the given timelines and the given cost. So, that a lot of companies are spending millions of rupees in that. So, I can see, a lot of help which is being given to the contractors now in terms of the execution of the project.
See, adding to what Nikhil has said, one of the main challenges, we face in this particular section is we have very few, contractors who are very efficient in construction, and we find the skilled people are very quite less in number. To hold on to them, on a continuous basis, it is really important for us to ensure that the materials are fed on time, and so that their equipment cost and their manpower cost comes down, and thereby as a whole the business gets benefited. So this is very very crucial. The entire cycle, the total cycle of construction is totally dependent on how well we can feed, how uh, you know how sequentially I can fill, how in a full kit way I can feed, so that the construction or erection of a particular building becomes much more cost effective and much more quicker. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nikhil and Mr. Ramachandran, for addressing that. And of course, efficient management needs to be get a wide access for the contractors. Mr. Ramachandran, there's a question from one of our delegates that they are asking, since every steel building solutions are and other panelist experts increase in steel building demand. So they want to understand if every steel building is planning to spend to increase the capacity of your steel building division.
See, the market as a whole is very bullish, and we are looking at a very good demand in future, either it is in the PEB sector or in the multi-story building sector, or in other steel sector. Like if you look 5 years back, there is the awareness about steel construction has grown substantially. Like initially we were doing only warehouses, now even multi-story commercial buildings are there, but still the percolation of this in the residential sector is very less, not very high, but I'm sure it is going to happen very sooner or later, with very big builders showing interest in this method of construction. So looking at the market and looking at the kind of demand, yes, there is always a thought. Of course, it's a business decision which company will make, but looking at everything, I think the things are looking very positive. So that's what the industry as a whole is positive, and we being part of the industry is also positive.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramachandran, for addressing that. There's another question for you, Mr. Nikhil. One of our delegates is Mr. Deep Gandhi wants to ask is that what kind of price and durability difference it is between the PEB and other substitutes?
So here's 2 points in it. One is price and one is durability. So I'll take the price component first. So I can do a direct comparison. If you do direct comparison of a steel building compared to a normal conventional building, which is RCC, column beams, and brickwork. So what effectively we see is a structural difference of around 15 to 20% structure to structure cost difference. Although it depends on the type of building, the size of the building, and all the other parameters. But typically we have seen, so currently we are executing a G+17 story building where we had done a detailed analysis of overall costs if we go with the RCC structure or we go with a hybrid structure. So by hybrid, I mean all the columns and beams would be of steel, and then the columns is embedded in concrete. So we very light concrete and very light reinforcement. So if we see that type of building, hybrid building, difference is around 15 to 20%. If we do pure steel building, then there's another gap of 5 to 7% if we do pure steel and not hybrid. So that's the difference in the pricing, and that is only to structure cost. Now the finishing would be same in any type of building. If you make an RCC column structure or a PEB column structure, ultimately you can do brickwork, you can do block work, you can do light gauge steel frame walls or precast walls or what type. That same finishing can be given to any building. Now, if we come to the durability part, so we have seen trends across the world where people design these buildings for 50 years, 75 years, and up to 100 years as well, which are prefabricated. Called prefabricated, they are prefabricated, but they are durable and they are permanent buildings. So, we are also designing buildings which are 50 years, 75 years in terms of their lifespan for the structure. So that, if we design it for a higher number of years, then there is for certain changes in the design in terms of the thickness of the material changes, the painting specification goes higher and all those things for the durability. But effectively, it can last for as many years as the RCC building can. So durability wise, there is no challenge. And durability of few components which are very mobile and it's all very used very roughly, that has to be seen, because that is a challenge with the conventional construction also and with the PEB construction also. But if we talk about the main structural part or the building part, that durability wise there is no difference. I mean, we can design permanent buildings in both the technologies.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nikhil, for addressing that. Mr. Ramachandran, would you like to add something to what Mr. Nikhil mentioned in terms of price and durability?
No, I think he has covered most of the aspects. And the thing is, I think we need to look into more optimization, in any kind of technology what we use. I think we should not be thinking that, okay, we have done the best. I think we have to keep optimizing things for better, cost effectiveness. Yeah.
So I talked about the cost comparison of the initial investment. But if we talk about the long-term investment, long-term cost of the building, that ways I see, a lot of difference. Because if we use a steel building and we, use effective technologies of insulation and all those things, so building is erected in a much lesser span compared to the RCC building. So if it's a building where you will earn some rentals or some other, incomes, so that could be preponed. So if it's a school building or office building or, for leasing out or something, so that income could be generated much earlier. So that is one area where overall cost optimization of the overall project cost can be seen. Also, if there are a lot of people who use this building for 25-30 years and then they want to scrap the building, that time the cost which you have invested 30-40 years back, almost that cost, because the steel prices will keep rising, right? The cost right now of the steel would be the scrap cost 30, 40, 50 years down the line. So that initial investment that you made will be recovered after the lifespan of the building. So if we see the overall aspect of the building, I think it makes more sense, and people are getting aware of it. So the overall input or the increase of the usage should be there in the coming years.
Yeah, the return of investment is way faster than in a completely RCC done building, which as a customer, the whatever the investment he's done, very quickly he starts, getting the returns. Yeah, it's way ahead. I mean, it's way ahead of RCC.
Because the precast and pre-engineered buildings are going to give a huge advantage in the coming years.
Yes.
Also, in the past, this industry has been impacted by the price volatility of raw materials, which impacts the margins. So, can this change in the future? And can the margins become stable instead of more volatile margins?
I think the question is addressed to me. I think, yeah, frankly, the answer to this is I don't know. I think, Nikhil can concur. It's a very difficult to predict, what is going to happen. Looking at, nobody expected a war in Ukraine, for example. A few months back, nobody expected. Right? So it's like, if it becomes stable, we all are happy. But at the same time, it's not becoming stable. So we are looking at options. What else we can do to mitigate the volatility what we are facing? I think now, presently, we need to look into what else I can do. I have to, see that this is going to continue, okay, for quite some time. So I think this is an opportunity, in fact, for us to look into the other areas where I can make myself better so that I mitigate this volatile nature. Okay, if it settles down, it's good, well and good. But at least I'm not a pandit, so I don't have a yes or no. It will happen. It may not happen. I don't think I have an answer for that. Yeah, maybe Nikhil can put his thoughts, on that. Yeah.
This volatility has not brought about a change in only the suppliers of the PEB building. It has brought a lot of change in the buyers of the PEB building as well. So, before this volatility happened, when we used to go for a negotiation or a discussion with the client, they used to talk about, okay, this is the tonnage and this is the price. So, okay, that's the negotiation point. Right now, there's another point, which is the base material cost. So most of the clients, they are now started asking, okay, this is your price, this is your tonnage, and what is your base price of the steel? Because everyone knows, right now we'll finalize the order. 3 months down the line, we don't know where the steel prices will be. So now the contract has one more point of base price. So the steel currently maybe whatever 58, 59, 60 rupees of mild steel is HR plate is there. So they put that 3-4 different sheeting rate and cold foam and all those component rates are being discussed. So that has brought about a lot of change in terms of the way the contract is now agreed upon and signed. So earlier, pre-engineered building manufacturers, they had a little bit of leeway in terms of the overall pricing and stuff. But since the base pricing is now getting fixed, so it's only the conversion that we are looking at. So the margins which we are wafers in earlier are getting even slimmer. So they are on diet right now. So that, but yeah, price, volatility, there has been a lot of different, things around the world which has impacted that volatility, but which I don't feel, certainly it will not last very long. It has to come stable, because the steel is one component which is, like a commodity. It's not, it's hugely used. So so much volatility will not last for too long, and either the government or the big players, the manufacturers, they will get out with some guidelines of how to control that volatility, because that ultimately disheartens the client a lot. So that issues should not be there. And with such a price increase, the difference between the PEB construction and the steel construction goes even higher. So the steel manufacturers, they know, the government high officials, they know that steel is one of the component which is very important for the infrastructure development projects. And companies who are working for government, they won't sustain, they won't last. So I don't see this trend happening a lot in terms of the volatility. What is gone is gone. It's a good learning phase, but I don't think it will last too long.
And like talking about this volatility, but yes, it should not continue for long. At the same time, this has put before us an opportunity where people have started thinking little differently. Like Nikhil has given an example where even the customer as well as other buyers have started thinking differently, right? This in fact has, from manufacturers point of view, this has given a opportunity for the people, which in fact I think we were not doing before. Okay, we were looking at areas where we can really improve. Okay, we have taken it that this is volatile, so what I'm going to do in other areas where I can improve. So this has greatly benefited, adversity brings the best out of the industry, like that. In the steel industry now, people have started adapting themselves, and I think the industry is becoming more mature and it becoming more better for the future ready, I would say, right?
Thank you so much. Although even in between these challenges, it's good to see that there is still a lot of optimism in the industry. Also, there will be recovery will be happening very soon. Also, when we talk about price fluctuation, Mr. Nikhil, we are focusing more on low cost PB construction right now. So, looking at all these trends, fluctuating trends and steel prices, can we afford low cost PB housing with the changing supply chain trends also?
So, in terms of affordability, it's a very big statement, big term, where we don't know what is. So something may be affordable to you, may not be affordable to me. So it depends what the application of the building is, and who is buying it, for what purpose, what is their main agenda of the building. So people who are not looking at the cost, but they're looking at the timelines, for them the most effective building is the PEB building. They don't look at the cost. Okay, maybe it's 5%, 10% higher, but they are not looking at that cost as of now, because they know the overall value, the lifetime value of the building is much lower compared to the conventional building. Having said that, what I would like to again highlight is the earlier points that we had discussed, in terms of the design efficiency, the manufacturing efficiency, the new technologies that are coming up, the fast execution at site, and the overall AI being a part of the overall process. So that I feel, yes, will control the cost overall. And looking at the trend which India is going on in terms of the labor prices, labor cost, and all those things, I feel within 10 to 15 years, huge growth will be there in terms of the low cost pre-engineered buildings, because earlier we were making pre-engineered building, then came the light gauge steel framing. So that has taken up a huge market in terms of overall buildings of maybe residential, farmhouses, schools, colleges, and institutional buildings, hospitals. So even the government has adopted these technologies a lot. So there's a lighthouse project which is they are trying 4 or 5 different pre-engineered building technologies around the country, and they are making multi-story buildings. So one is in Kanpur, one is in Tripura, one is in Indore. They're trying different technologies, and there's a different council, BMTPC, Building Trade Promotion Council. So they are also identifying different technologies which can reduce the cost, which are good, cost effective, and good quality. And so they are identifying the technologies, the companies, and they are listing it for the government PSUs to adopt and use. So I mean, I can see there's a lot of movement towards that.
I think residential is one area especially in this country. I think it is yet to be tapped. I think, I mean, it's low to pick up, but the opportunity wise, it's very huge. I think once it starts picking up, I think it's going to be a big, paradigm shift in, the steel building industry in India. That is what I think. The awareness is increasing. At least in certain metros, I can see I'm finding the awareness to greater level. But I think it will take some time. But I think this is one area which we have a huge market, in our hands to tap.
Yes, of course, Mr. Nikhil and Mr. Ramachandran, looking at the trends and the reformations, steel PEB structures are soon going to gain prominence more than we have right now for commercial for conventional structures in India. Also, Mr. Ramachandran, there's a question for you from one of our delegates. They are asking this: what kind of cost overruns does every steel building usually have in their projects, and how are they trying to improve this?
Just answer in a single point, which I have mentioned 5 points. One of the points is the quick execution of the projects. I think that is one area where companies really lose money. Like even a delay of maybe 15 days or a month can really make or break a project. Since if you look at the lead time of this project, generally it's between 4 months to 6 months or maybe 7 months, depending on the size of the construction what we do. That is the fast quickness of execution is any lag in that. Okay, when I talk about quickness, it has its own. It's an entire cycle, like beginning how we plan to procure, how you start manufacturing, how you deliver it in sequential and basis to the way it need to be constructed. So the entire cycle need to be spot on. That is, I think, the quickness of execution is one area which really which companies lose a lot of any lag anywhere. So that's why in the initial stage of the project, the analyzing the critical path is extremely difficult. Extremely important, I would rather say. So extremely important. So that we clearly channelize our energies in mitigating those critical path. That is very crucial for execution of a project.
Cost at site execution, the design, is also very important. So any overrun in terms of the tonnage of the building can usually impact the overall cost of the building. So that is also one very important area, because ultimately when we commit to a customer in terms of a certain tonnage in the building, then we have to deliver it. And if there is a mistake somewhere in the estimate and that overruns, then there's a huge impact on that cost on that project. That is one area also which we need to take care of.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramachandran and Mr. Nikhil, for addressing that question collaboratively. Also, coming to the projects, when we talk about government's push, so how do you see the adoption ratio of these pre-engineered building solutions and structures in the government projects or state-sponsored projects?
So, we have been working with the government since past 3-4 years now. And before that, we used to try and pitch it to the government, but the people were very reluctant to use it in the government. But there's a paradigm shift in terms of the understanding, in terms of the knowledge, in terms of the usage by the government in last 3-4 years. There are certain buildings which they have been using in pre-engineered, like the hangars for the their Air Force and all those things. But in terms of the building, if you see multi-story building or other type of buildings, they have not been using prefabricated much. But now, since the central government is pushing it, BMTPC is a body which is pushing it. Now, a lot of items of prefabricated buildings are in their daily schedule of rate, DSR rates, which makes it very easy for the government to put it in the tenders. Then a lot of development through IIT and NIT has happened, which is given a lot of push to the PSUs to use it. Also, bodies like Airport Authority of India, MES, CPWD, they've been trying this technology out, and they have been successful in executing a lot of buildings. So even EPAC Group, we have executed many projects across the country for our government. We have made 6 airports using pre-engineered buildings. We have made accommodation buildings for CPWD in Ramban in Jammu and Kashmir, which is in a very, very remote location. So this was awarded as one of the best projects in Jammu and Kashmir as well, because they had given timelines of few months and it was completed almost half of the time. So that was one very good achievement which we did. So it was they have seen MES, military engineering services, their transit camps, their accommodation buildings up there in Leh, Ladakh, and all those hilly areas where construction of brick and mortar is very tough. This is the way to go. So they understand this technology now. They've experienced it, and the trend towards this is going. So whenever we meet now the executives, and they are all excited. Yes, we want to try. We want to have this building. This is coming up. How can we do it in steel? So that trend and that shift in the mindset we have seen, and that has that is not only at the top level. It is percolated to the site engineer level as well in terms of the execution. So. And the trend is also like that. Once the government start using this building, building in their residential component, then the private sector will take it as well, because they can see a lot of PSU buildings which are being used. Because the private sector, the acceptability might be a little challenge, but once they see a few buildings across the country, then I think it will be much more easier to get into their market, that market. Yeah.
Agree with Nikhil. Even this trend in government is now in fact going up substantially. Like even like if you look at Northeast or somewhere where there are many IT parks and electronic parks being built up in the steel method of construction. It's really a welcome trend actually. In fact, surprising to see that that much push is not happening in the other even in the cosmos. But I think the trend is catching up. As Nikhil rightly pointed out, once there is a push from the government side, I think the entire sector will change and people will be very confident. Basically, I think two things. One is there is some presumption, okay, this may not be good. Basically this presumption need to change first of all. The second thing is, okay, the initial investment, okay, we need to see the total cost of the total life cycle cost, what I'm gaining. And number three is the speed with which I can get my project delivered. So these three things, certain things are, mindset change, certain things are what you see in paper, the numbers, what you see in paper. So I think people, when they start assimilating, these, I think there will be a shift. Yeah.
Of course, there's going to be a paradigm shift in altogether in the rate of adoption for PEB and pre-engineered buildings, pre-engineered structures. Also, Mr. Ramachandran, now that we are soon enter to the new year, to 2023, and we are just a month away from the budget announcement. So, what are your expectations from the government in the union budget for PEB segment?
See, I'm nobody to comment on what government should do or government should not do. But at the same time, I would ensure the government. I mean, I would really expect that the government ensure an atmosphere of what you can say, atmosphere of freeness with which the PEB manufacturers can work, especially in the in the world, such a volatile international market. The government should facilitate in such a way, such that we should not be going non-competitive against my imports or against my other type of building construction makers. So I think that is one area where there are many factors which affects. I do agree. I don't want to go in depth into what need to be done or what need not to be done. At the same time, I think the atmosphere of fairness should be is expected. Yes, and even playing field is expected, which will really help the industry as a whole and overall as a nation as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Ramachandran. Of course, we need to create competency among the industry also to widen the opportunities for the Indian PV players. Mr. Nikhil, what are your expectations? What would you like to add to it?
So, looking at the trend which is happening right now in terms of the finance ministry I feel, in the coming year, they will have a big push in the infrastructure development. They'll have a lot of allocation for the infrastructure development, and pre-engineered building comes in the part of the infrastructure development. So I'm positive on that there'll be a lot of allocation. Having said that, now it is on the manufacturers of the pre-engineered building and the designers that how much chunk we can carve out from that area and you put it in our field. Currently, major usages in the industrial sector and minimal usage have started in the institutional sector and high-rise buildings, and residential is almost nil, I can say. So there's a huge area where government will be pushing in terms of the budget. And we'll see. I for sure expect some relaxation in terms of the steel components if they want to push this. I don't know what that area would say. Apart from that, I'm very positive and very bullish that the coming year would be strong for us, and we'll have. That is why we already have 2 units, and we are putting up another unit near Chennai. We are expanding for the preparation of the next year in the budget. To expand more.
Yeah, the infra is one area. I think it is going to be pushed in a big way. That's what we are seeing, and that's a trend, and it's a much needed also as a nation. Yes, at the same time, I think all steel being a seller's market presently, I would say, I think there should be a sense of government should ensure that there is a fairness in the way we as the industry as a whole, like producers, manufacturers, contractors, MSMEs as a whole, need to have an environment to grow as a team. That's what I feel. Yes.
Yes, of course. So, with the massive push for infrastructural development, even the entire industry is optimistic to have a collaborative and supportive atmosphere for the PB sector to grow. Thank you, panelists, for such an optimistic and insightful discussion today. We are almost at the end of the session. I invite Ms. Akanksha to take the closing note forward.
Thank you, Megha. Thank you, panelists, for sharing your valuable thoughts on procurement and technology trends in PEB. We hope you all have enjoyed the session. And before wrapping up this session, we thank our distinguished panelists, Mr. Ramachandran and Mr. Nikhil Botra. You can follow our social media pages to get more updates from B2B Purchase magazine. Also, our application is available on Google Play and App Store for enhanced reading. With this note, we would like to announce the closing of today's session. I request you all to stay tuned for such more sessions. Thank you so much. Have a good day.